What knowledge might save your life one day? Polar bears have insane ADHD. If one is chasing you, intermittently drop clothing items like a hat or gloves. It will stop to sniff them. Normal prey animals don't shed whole pieces of themselves. The bear will be perplexed. Saw on Reddit somewhere else. If it's brown, lie down. Black is fight back. It's not recommended to start attacking a bear under really any circumstances. Ah fuck, I have a lot of bears to apologize to. Don't ever stop performing CPR on a person until the EMTs take their body away. CPR doesn't wake up a person. It's to force blood to their brain to prevent brain death, so that the EMTs can revive that person. And find a CPR buddy to switch with regularly, even if they don't know CPR. Coach them through it, but if at all possible don't do it alone. Why? Because it is super taxing and your arms will get tired and hurt really fast, and as said, you can't stop. To add to this, you need to use a lot of force. You will probably break their ribs. Don't stop. Living is more important than one or more broken ribs. And you should roughly be pumping to the beat of Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees or Another Bites the Dust by Queen, depending on if you are a glass half full type of person or not. This just gave me a great chuckle. If someone is trying to abduct you, fight back. Most abductors will just give up if they meet resistance. And whatever you do, don't let them take you to another location. You ain't taking me to no secondary location. Street smarts. If someone threatens you with a gun or something, and they want to move you to another location, your chance of dying goes up considerably if you agree to relocate. You've gotta throw 'em off their rhythm. Street smarts. Nah, sister, you're not getting me to no secondary location. You want it? Go get it. Removed. And if you get stabbed and the attacker withdraws the knife, seal off the wound with a credit card, especially if it's to the lung. Edit, I'm on my way out of the country and turned on my phone to find that this is putting people's lives in danger. By seal off the wound I meant create suction by putting the card flat on the wound. Don't just jam it in there and dig around. I saw this in an instructional video for police like a year ago. And if you get stabbed and the attacker withdraws the knife, do not reinsert the knife back into the wound. You won't align it properly and just make the wound much worse. Make a new wound and leave the knife in that one. If you try aligning it, don't try multiple times. That would make it worse. That water you're about to dive into might not be as deep as you think. Always just step in and swim down to check for depth, then jump. If the tide suddenly goes out unexpectedly, run like you stole it, for higher ground. I read about a 10-year-old English girl who had just learned this before going on vacation with her family to Thailand. Then the big tsunami that killed a few 100,000 came. She saw the water retreat and the other tourists walk out on the exposed seafloor. She freaked out and convinced everybody to run for higher ground. A lot of people were saved by a little girl who had paid attention in school. They later brought a lot of flowers to the teacher. Imagine how terrifying that must be, knowing that a huge unstoppable wave is traveling hundreds of kilometers per hour to your location, and most people don't listen to you, just thinking you're a stupid kid who doesn't know any better. The instinct of wolves will only cause them to attack/hunt you if they can intimidate you into fleeing from them. Standing your ground against a wolf pack will be terrifying, but will eventually cause them to bugger off. Tigers as well. Don't turn your eyes away from a tiger. There is a story of a boy that had to walk backwards for 3 hours back to his village, being stalked by a tiger. The cost benefit of a prey animal even slightly hurting a tiger is not worth it. It could mean a death sentence in the wild. I broke eye contact by looking down with a tiger yesterday that was behind a fence 3 feet away, and he jumped at me. I looked up and he was standing straight up with his arms stretched above his head and claws on the fence. I swear to God he was at least 8 foot tall. I very nearly shat myself. Solid defense mechanism. Who wants to eat food covered in shit? What won't kill you in Australia? The wildlife. What will kill you? Getting lost in the outback. If you're lost and out of fuel, stay with your vehicle, move as little as possible during the day, and stay in the shade. Conserve water. Rip off wing mirrors to shine at any search planes. You can drink your urine approximate 1 to 3 times before your kidneys start to pack it in. This is absolute last resort. To be fair, the wildlife can also kill you. Plot twist, lost in the Australian outback and a Roo enters the passenger seat, points a gun at your head, and tells you to relocate. Say no and throw your keys out the window? Then turn your head and scream I'm coming. All snakes in Victoria, Australia are venomous. Just assume all snakes are venomous and stay away. If you are ever bitten by a bat, raccoon, fox, or skunk, go directly to the hospital. There is no cure for rabies once it is fully onset. Out of all history, only 5 people survived rabies. Meredith Palmer being one of the 5. I remember reading in a Reddit post similar to this, that if you can't do a pull-up you probably won't have the strength to pull yourself up off a ledge. That has stuck with me ever since. If you call 911, always say where the problem is first, followed by the problem. If you happen to get cut off before you can say what the problem is, at least the dispatcher has a location to send an officer to check it out and advise if more police or fire is needed. Example, operator 911, where is your emergency? You, help, I'm being stabbed, versus operator 911, where is your emergency? You, 742 Evergreen Terrace, help, I am, location, location, location. Sideshow Bob can stab faster than you can explain. Makes sense. Removed. Good luck today. If you have to get out of moving car, then put one foot down and take a step. Don't just jump out. This will reduce your speed immensely. Sure, you will fall over, but at a much reduced speed. A stuntman told me this. I had to leave moving car that was going about 40 miles per hour. I was pregnant. I had a medium-sized person to pillow. The man driving the car had said he was going to kill us both if he couldn't have me, and was going in and out of oncoming traffic. I grabbed my bag and pillow and held the pillow across my stomach and opened the door and thought, if I go like a rag doll, except my arm holding my stomach and my other arm with my purse covered my face, but everything else I tried to relax. I stepped out and let myself fall and roll. It was amazing. I ended up with just a handful of bruises and scrapes, and I was fine. And my daughter is 14 now. We made it. Oh my god, that's awful. I'm so glad to hear you and your daughter are okay. Couldn't imagine that scenario if I tried. If you're ever charged by a moose, get behind a tree. They have about a 10-inch blind spot and they'll lose you. If you've been buried alive in a standard coffin, stay calm. If you are alive, you haven't been buried that long. Also, the dirt above you hasn't set yet. Most coffins are not built to last once buried, and as a result have weak siding. So here is what you do. Pull your shirt over your head. You don't want to be swallowing dirt. Position yourself so you are as sideways in the coffin as possible with hands and feet pushing on the long sides. Push. You should be able to blow out one of the walls. Start crawling up. Do not panic. You may not find a grip immediately. Keep going until you make it out. Worst nightmare. Just reading that made me uncomfortable. When people say to take an aspirin to help during a heart attack, chew the pill. Don't swallow it whole. It gets absorbed much quicker. Whoa, I wouldn't have known that. Thanks. Firefighter training. If there is a fire, crawl out of the building. Do not stand up to run. 1 or 2 breaths of smoke are enough to do major damage and require hospitalization. If you get out at all, it may be warm where you are crawling, but standing up can cook your skin and your lungs. The smoke at eye level can be more than 600 deg point C, 1200 deg point F. If you can't see and don't know the room layout, crawl with your feet/legs in front of you, sliding on your ass. Do not crawl face first, or you may take a dive down a staircase in the confusion. This reminds me, if you're caught in a river while tubing, rafting, etc., you may be tempted to doggy paddle or swim to save energy, but you want to turn your body as best you can to float on your back, so your feet are in the direction of the downstream current, in a passive way. Remember, nose and toes equals face up, toes up, your feet, loose legs. Do not lock your knees, will take the impact of any submerged rocks, etc., and you can push away from them, rather than getting a head or chest injury. Yes, lakes count. This is advisable usually only for whitewater scenarios. A side stroke is usually the most energy efficient method of swimming for a rescue, if there's no danger of underwater hazards. If you're being choked, turning your head to the right or left will allow you to breathe. Go for the eyes. Furthermore, Moaning yes daddy and winking at the attacker may give you the brief moment of confusion and shock you'll need to make that strike for the eyes. I'm coming. If you're alone and start choking with nobody around to give you the heimlich, you can give yourself the heimlich by using the back of a chair or similar objects like the sidearm of a couch or whatever. Forcefully throw your stomach over the back of the chair a few times. Try to mimic the motion of the heimlich. Push in above the belly button, then up, kind of like a J motion. I always try to remember this, but anytime I think I'm slightly choked this logic goes out the window. How often are you choking? As often as you will do it, daddy. If you're a pedestrian and crossing a street, if you can see the sun's reflection on the windshield of a car, there's a good chance the driver cannot see you. If your shadow points toward the car, same. If you've been carjacked and the carjacker tells you to just drive, take whatever chance you get to wreck. At minimum, you're getting emergency services involved, meaning it's more likely they'll be caught, and there's a chance you'll incapacitate or even kill the carjacker. Of course, there's also a chance that you might not survive, but if they are taking you to a second location, odds are you weren't going to come back anyway. You don't even need to wreck. I doubt carjackers put on their seatbelts, and if they do just push the release button before you up the speed, jam the brakes and watch that motherfucker fly through the windscreen. Ejecto seatokas. I read this possibly on another thread or even on this one. If you smell something close to fish, or even urine, it's possible you may have an electrical fire. Electrical fires tend to smell like fishan when exposed to high heat, urine, or maybe your cat had a snack and decided to pee on the carpet. And if you smell rotten eggs, it's natural gas. Get out immediately and call 911. 120 people will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. You need some sort of screening starting at age 45 to 50 depending on your family history. Any blood in the stool needs to be checked out. Early cancers can be completely cured with keyhole surgery. You don't have to die of bowel cancer. In Australia, when you turn 50, the government starts sending you free testing kits every 2 years. Always leave your itinerary with someone. If you meet strangers, that is, potential bad people, on the road, always let them know that you are in touch with friends and family and that they know exactly where you are. You become less attractive as a victim. If you're unsure about the movement of a tornado, put a straight object such as a tree or a street light in between you and the tornado. It'll make it way easier to see which way the tornado is moving. If the tornado appears to not be moving, it's coming right at you. Or directly away from you. Either way, that's not a bet you wanna take when your prize is being able to just kinda sit here. If your car is going underwater, an electronic roll-down button will work regardless of the water pressure outside the car, but a manual handle is much more difficult. You also won't be able to open the door. It's better to have something in the glove box, like an ice scraper, to break the glass with. Mythbusters did a whole thing on it. That episode saved a woman's life. She wrote to them to tell them, and Adam Savage cried knowing he helped to save a life. Mythbusters saved my life. Or at least my house. I was a early teen, and was cooking bacon. The pan caught fire, but I had just watched the episode where they put water on a grease fire, and it makes it way worse. If I hadn't have watched that episode, I would have probably thrown water on it, and it would have been no bueno. EMT here. If you're ever choking on food in a public venue, do not go to the restroom, to avoid causing a scene. Almost every death I've seen from people choking are found unconscious in a bathroom stall, because they were too polite to seek help. I feel like, if there's any situation in which it's okay to not be polite, it's when you're choking to death. When touching something electrical, use the back of your hand. Using your palm on, say, a live wire will cause your hand to grab it, and you'd be unable to let go. As an electrician, just don't grab electrical things at all. Let me do it instead.